Hello and welcome to Cosmic Diaries. This is Priya, Kale, your astrologer. Today I want to talk to you about the month of December. I want to give you a little bit of an overview for the month of December. And of course, the Gemini Full Moon that's coming up on the 6th of, just day after tomorrow. And you have to excuse me. If you've watched my videos before, I just want to say that this is my last day. Well, this is the last video you'll see in this apartment because in the next 24 hours I'm moving, and the next time you see me will be from India. I'm flying home to India for the winter, so it's going to be bye-bye New York for a little while, but I'll see you on the other side. And speaking of travel and journeys, which also explains, please excuse the unironed shirt. I don't know where my iron is and I have to pack. We're moving to the full moon in Gemini, as I mentioned earlier. On the 6th of December at 14 degrees of Gemini and Sagittarius. The sun will be in Sagittarius, the moon's in Gemini. At 7:26 a.m. here in New York. That's Eastern Standard Time. As I said, speaking of travel, Sagittarius is the sign of travel, of journeys. And we have a big month coming up. We can expect a little bit of a bumpy ride this month. There's going to be lots of twists and turns on this journey that you're on. And early in the month itself, on the 6th day after, we're reaching the Gemini full moon, and that Gemini represents choices, and you're being presented with a choice. It's like a fork in the road, and your choices will make a difference in where you end up. There is no wrong choice. Only a choice that's right for you. But the more you're open-minded you can be right now, the more you can learn what you need to know and be shown the way forward. The Gemini-Sagittarius axis. Gemini represents communication, duality, the mind. It also represents your siblings, short distance travel, transportation. It's ruled by Mercury. And then we have Sagittarius, which is the sign that represents God, spirituality, the higher mind, long distance travel, everything that lies beyond the horizon. Sagittarius is the sign that comes after Scorpio. So it's life after death. It's the resurrection right now. As this full moon aligns on the 6th and in the days that follow, and in the 2 weeks that follow as we move to the new moon in Capricorn, pay attention to what's coming up. There are huge revelations coming up. You're likely to be having very important conversations. Again, you may be traveling physically at this time, as I am. Or metaphorically, you're being asked to go beyond your usual perceptions to recognize a greater truth and a greater reality. Will represent our emotions. And then in a Mercury-ruled sign like Gemini, there can be the tendency to see things in black and white, or there may be a feeling of being divided or torn between two choices right now, or with what you're learning as this full moon spills over. There are aspects, and for those of you who are new to this channel, again, I do write a monthly report, and I have a subscriber service where I send out a monthly report and detailed report with aspects and as well as monthly horoscopes. So I'll be posting the sample horoscopes and other stuff on my blog, so you can check that out. But I would recommend you subscribe, and you can have all of these dates in detail that I'm talking about. I'm just going to try and give you an overview. But also look at where the Gemini-Sagittarius axis falls in your chart. That's where you're going to see this energy manifest. So for example, if you are a Gemini, then the planets are moving through Sagittarius, so your relationships, and the full moon is in your sign. So you're going to see this energy play out between you and your relationships. December, on the 15th, we also have the 6th in a series of 7 Uranus-Pluto squares peaking, making an exact aspect. And the last square aspect occurs in March, 16th of March, 2015. This is a transition that we've been in since 2012. probably before, but the aspect first peaked in 2012. And I've talked a little bit about this aspect in an earlier video. I'll add a link here. But we've been turning a corner slowly. And Uranus and Pluto are outer planets. So when outer planets come into play, we see events manifested on a larger world stage, on a collective level. When we have personal planets like the Sun and the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, that's when we feel things in our life more personally, in our interpersonal relationships. But the Sun, Mercury, Venus will all be moving over a conjunction to Pluto, which means it's bringing this energy of the outer planets home to us in a very personal way. And whatever's going on out in the world will affect you. And what happens within you does ripple out. And really, that is the biggest message of what's going on right now. We're one. And the Sagittarius, the Sun in Sagittarius, is asking us to go beyond this duality of seeing each other as separate or seeing the world as separate. And when I say that, I don't mean metaphorically. I mean, we live in a metaphysical reality. It's not just a physical world we live in. In astrology, the fact that astrology works because we live in a metaphysical reality. I am not separate from you. We are. That's Pisces, that's cosmic consciousness, that's the omnipotence, omnipresence, and omniscience of God. Or what we call God, or this universal energy. Life. That pervades everything. That's Neptune, that's Pisces. But then Sagittarius is what we know of God. Because as humans, unless you are enlightened, we can only know so much. And that's the thing, it's not really about, the more we can be open, we can be graced with wisdom or grace, which is something that is, by its very definition, not something that's deserved, earned, or done. It's grace. So yes, this duality and division that we see between ourselves and the rest of the world, where this Uranus-Pluto square is also awakening us to this other, rather greater reality. And squares are always energy that you resolve internally rather than project externally. But it is also much of what's going on in the world right now. That's why people are waking up, people are angry. That's very Aries, fiery energy. And establishment, our old structures are not working. And change has to happen. But unfortunately, when change happens, things can get bloody. How can we now awaken and listen to an inner wisdom, an inner truth? It can be scary in times of such, scary or at least even paralyzing in times of such change, of not knowing what your role is in a situation. But Sagittarius is telling us that there is a greater divine plan in motion, and at any given point we can only see a part of reality. And when you have that awareness, then you can enter any situation with the wisdom that you don't know it all. And your only quest now is to seek the truth. And there are no billion truths, there is one truth. And sure, you can seek this truth outside of yourself, but before you go looking outside of yourself, the whole message of oneness is you are a microcosm of the macrocosm. That higher consciousness, God, dwells within you. And for that, you have to enter a space of listening to that inner wisdom, learning to listen to that inner wisdom, and allowing it to guide you. Conversations you're having, avoid trying to analyze your emotions, and if you find yourself thinking in black and white or thinking in extreme terms, that's your cue to take a step back and try to gather a fresh perspective. What's happening now as the sun moves through Sagittarius is especially significant because they're the last 3 weeks of Saturn and Scorpio, a journey we've been in since 2012, October, which has really changed the landscape of our world and relationships. And we've had to evolve on a personal level, on a very deep personal level. And we'll re-enter Scorpio briefly next year between July and September. So we're going to revisit some of these situations again at that time. But now what's happening with the sun moving through Sagittarius is giving us a glimpse into a vision. There is a vision forming, especially as this full moon aligns. And as Saturn enters Sagittarius, it will be time to crystallize that vision. Also this month, Uranus stations direct right before the sun changes signs from Sagittarius and moves into Capricorn. And this Uranus is in Aries, and Uranus will have just squared Pluto. So there's kind of that boomerang effect. It's like something happens and then boom, the energy moves forward. And this is Uranus, so it's very unpredictable. And this is Aries, so I mean, look at what's going on in the world right now. No matter where you're living in the world, this is how the energy is currently. What's being asked is we're collectively turning a corner. Yes, this is a revolution, this is a change. Uranus is in Aries, which is the sign of the individual, and Uranus is the awakener. So we're being asked to awaken into a greater self-awareness, a deeper self-awareness of who you really are at your core, which is pure fiery energy, or chi, or Shakti, life itself. Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. And then we have Pluto in Capricorn, which is the sign of establishment, government, structure. It's the third earth sign, so it's the most evolved earth sign, material sign. Pluto is what we can't avoid. Pluto is change. And Pluto will bring the darker stuff to the surface. Or rather the abuse of those in power, the darker side of structures or structures crumbling that need to be changed. But in essence, it's seeing the darker side of humanity. And before you point fingers, and before we point fingers and blame others and try to change the world, are we able to even change ourselves? Are you able to conquer? Well, it doesn't have to be a battle. This Uranus-Pluto square, internally it may feel like you've been battling these emotions or, something in your life. Everyone's facing some sort of battle right now, very literally out in the world, and on a personal level as well. We've all been fighting personal battles at the moment with our own demons, and really that's the greatest battle we'll ever fight, because once there can be that awakening of your true essence, then there can be a return to yourself, and then you can break free of that conditioning of Pluto and Capricorn and what the world and society has told you should be, or what success means or failure means, or what it means to be successful. Once you break down all that conditioning and when you awaken to just your core humanity, that's when you can really affect any change in the world. And that does, as the solstice occurs, Uranus stations direct. There's a forward blast of energy, and in some cases, and we're at the end of the Sagittarius journey, so there's a sense of, you may have to blast a hole through a mountain to create a tunnel, to create a path where there isn't one at the time of that new moon. And it is Capricorn, so you're seeding something big. Saturn changes signs just 2 days later, Saturn being the ruler of Capricorn. So there's something big in the world. First, Sagittarius is asking you to gain clarity on a vision and to gain perspective on the road ahead, because it's going to be a long road to get somewhere. In life, it's the journey. You're going to learn what you need to know, and you're never going to know it all. Sagittarius is a seeker. It's you seeking that knowledge. And then having that knowledge is not enough. Are you able to embody that knowledge? Are you able to embody that knowledge and walk that path? the symbol for Sagittarius is the centaur. It's the man that rises out of the animal. So after Scorpio, which has seen the death of, our attachments to the material plane and our very primal attachments to sex, money, life, death. Now in Sagittarius, this is how does the man, the higher consciousness, rise above our animal nature. So it calls for wisdom. But really, what does that mean? It's just your higher consciousness, because animals are sentient beings, and the way the world is right now, we could learn a lot from animals. But that's the whole point. Like, how do you could have desires, but you can also make a choice on whether or not to act on those desires. Morality or judgment of right or wrong, but more in a sense of understanding that your actions and your choices affect the people in your life. And what affects them affects you. And yes, some truths are difficult to swallow. And sometimes we have to choose a different path. And we separate on our journeys with travelers, fellow travelers. But it does not have to be a bitter ending. And we do meet again. And this is especially significant now as we move through these last 3 weeks of Saturn in Scorpio. Because Scorpio is all about change and death. And I don't mean that in a literal sense, but it is all about change of the way things were. Control. We just have the illusion of control. And Scorpio asks that we let go of that illusion. And then when we come to Sagittarius, then we recognize what power truly means. Because Gemini, choice, that's the only power we really ever have, is how we respond to something. And the choices that we make. And we're always free to choose. So, and in your relationships, if Taurus Scorpio is the axis that comes before Gemini Sagittarius, Taurus Scorpio is an axis that relates with commitment and, deep commitments and till death do us part. That's Scorpio. But death can be metaphorical, and death simply means change. So even in the past season of Scorpio, you've seen the dynamics of your relationships changing. And now that you've seen someone's darker side, quote unquote, and when I say darker, I mean the side that is acting in unconsciousness and acting out of ego, where the ego overshadows the light. So after you've seen someone for who they are, how do you not judge another or even yourself or your own desires? But ask yourself then, you have a choice whether you want to continue down a certain path. And ultimately, we're all on our individual journeys. It's a solitary journey for all of us. We're born alone, we die alone. At best, we can share our journey with companions. What you want is people you can talk to, someone you can communicate with. And that's Gemini. With the moon full in Gemini, other aspects taking place, and this is very fiery, passionate energy. There's revelations coming through, you're learning things, you're having ideas, there's a seed of a very golden idea there, but you have to have a vision and a long-term plan, especially with Saturn entering Sagittarius. This has to be a long-term plan. Then you can shape something. Bring shape to it. Then yes, as the Capricorn new moon aligns on the 21st with the solstice, it's a period of planting these seeds and bringing this vision to life. And yeah, it's going to require a lot of hard work. And there are still a lot of surprising developments that we haven't even seen and that are still coming up. So you don't think you know it all, because there's a lot more left in this year. And we're just going to have to think on our feet and find new roads to get where we're going. It's Thursday afternoon now. But do please check in with the blog. I'm going to update it with the horoscopes for December. also, I've almost finished my 2015 horoscope project. I actually started as a 2000, for the first time, had to put the 2014 project on the shelf. There was just a lot of change and I had to shelve it. So if you've already bought your 2014 horoscopes, you don't need to buy them. But if you have not, then I would recommend you look for that link as well in the next few days. I'll try to have it up now, but if not, then in the coming week. But you can order your 2015 horoscopes. And yeah, a very happy full moon to you. Happy journeys, safe traveling. And I will catch you from the other side. Ta-da for now.